Thank you, Ivy, but I already made my food. I will eat this later.
Later that evening, Rose went to retrieve the food Ivy had brought. As she uncovered it, she noticed that the meal had turned black, a clear sign of poison. Shocked and alarmed, she immediately threw the food away. Once upon a time, in a quaint town named Greenfield, an unusual event took place. A beautiful young woman named Rose appeared out of the blue. Her beauty was so mesmerizing that all the prominent men in the town were instantly charmed. No one knew where she came from. Some speculated she might have come from the forest or even descended from the sky. Rose was so captivating that no man could resist stealing a second look at her. However, her sudden appearance stirred unease among some townsfolk, who feared she might bring turmoil and destruction to Greenfield. Rose quickly became a sensation among the town's elite, who all competed for her attention. However, some residents suspected she had a hidden agenda to harm their peaceful town. The town's elders recalled an old tale about a beautiful woman who was prophesied to bring calamity to Greenfield. A few villagers wondered if Rose was the woman from the prophecy. The town was divided, with some simply admiring her beauty and charm. In the following days, Rose continued to be the center of attention in Greenfield. Her allure was so powerful that the women in the town began to feel envious and discontented. They gathered together, plotting ways to make her leave. Rose's presence made the other women feel overlooked. They felt as if they were invisible because everyone's eyes were always on her. Some women believed that if she left, things would return to normal, with everyone receiving equal attention. Murmurs filled the air as the women brainstormed ways to make Rose leave. Some suggested spreading rumors or making her feel unwelcome, hoping she would choose to leave on her own. The town, once united in curiosity about the mysterious girl, was now divided. Some people were captivated by Rose's beauty, while others were increasingly bothered by it. The situation in Greenfield was changing, with feelings of envy and unhappiness growing among the women. They were trying to find a way to remove the enchanting girl from their town, hoping to restore the harmony they felt they had lost. As the murmurs and unhappiness grew among the women of Greenfield, they decided to take action. They chose Ivy, a young woman known for her cleverness, to befriend Rose. They hoped Ivy would gather information about the mysterious girl that could help send her away. Ivy approached Rose one day while she was fetching water from the town well. "Hello, I'm Ivy. I've seen you around, and I thought we could be friends," Ivy said with a warm smile. Rose looked at Ivy with curiosity and nodded. "Nice to meet you, Ivy." Two started talking, and Ivy asked about Rose's life and where she came from. Rose shared stories about her past, but didn't reveal much about why she came to Greenfield. "I love your beautiful clothes. Where did you get them from?" Ivy inquired, trying to find out more. Rose smiled. "I made them myself. It's a skill I learned from my mother." Ivy listened carefully, trying to find something that could help the women make Rose leave. She continued meeting Rose in the following days, asking more questions and trying to learn as much as she could. During one conversation, Rose confided, "I have always felt a bit lonely. It's hard to be in a place where people are not so welcoming." Ivy's eyes widened, sensing an opportunity. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm sure things will get better," she said with a sympathetic tone. The women of the town waited for Ivy to gather enough information that could help them send Rose away. Ivy returned to the group of women, sharing what she had learned about Rose. She makes her clothes, and she feels lonely here, Ivy revealed. The women thought about how they could use this information to make Rose leave. They planned to use Rose's loneliness to their advantage, hoping she might decide to leave on her own. Town of Greenfield was now caught in a web of plans and secrets, as the women plotted to use Ivy's newfound information to change Rose's mind about staying in the town. Several weeks passed, but Rose showed no sign of leaving the town. Instead, more and more men were drawn to her, even the married ones, despite her constant rejections. Rose worked tirelessly in the fields and helped others, earning her own money to take care of herself. It's not right. She's turning everyone's heads and she doesn't even care about their attention, one of the women muttered angrily to the others. She's so stubborn. We need to do something, another woman added. They grew more and more unhappy with Rose's presence and started planning a different way to make her leave. Once again, they chose Ivy, hoping she could convince Rose to accompany her to a neighboring town. Their plan was to harm her on the way. Rose, I have been thinking, I'm going to visit my family in the next town. Would you like to come along? Ivy asked, trying to sound friendly. Rose looked at Ivy, a bit surprised. Why do you want me to come with you? Ivy smiled. I thought it might be nice for you to see a new place and get away for a bit. It could be fun, you know. Rose hesitated, but eventually agreed. Okay, I will come. It might be nice to see a new place. Unaware of the sinister plan, Rose agreed to go with Ivy. The women had successfully set the trap without Rose knowing what awaited her. They had planned to harm her on the way to the neighboring town, feeling that this was the only way to rid themselves of the enchanting girl. The town was now entrenched in a plot that could bring a tragic end to the mysterious girl, as the women's envy and resentment led them down a dark and dangerous path. Unaware of the looming danger, Rose prepared to travel with Ivy to the neighboring town the next day. She was getting her things ready, packing a small bag, excited to see a new place. Meanwhile, Ivy rushed to deliver the message to her cohorts, the women who had devised the sinister plan. She agreed to come tomorrow. We can finally get rid of her. The women were ecstatic, feeling relieved that their plan to remove Rose was finally in motion. As the night fell and Rose retired to sleep, she was visited in a dream by her deceased mother. Do not venture on any journey, my daughter. It's a trap, and you will meet harm if you go, her mother's voice echoed in the dream. Startled, Rose woke up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding. She felt unwell, the warning from her dream unsettling her deeply. The next morning, Ivy arrived at Rose's home, ready to set out for the journey. Good morning, Rose. Are you ready? Ivy greeted. Rose, still feeling sick from the warning in her dream, replied weakly, I can't go with you today. Ivy was surprised. But you agreed yesterday. Are you sure you can't come? We were supposed to leave today. I just can't. I'm sorry, Rose replied. Ivy tried to convince her. Come on, it will be fun. You will feel better once we are on the way. But Rose was firm. I really can't. I need to rest and take care of myself. Disappointed, Ivy left, unable to persuade Rose to change her mind. The plan to harm Rose seemed to have hit a roadblock, as Rose's sudden illness and refusal to accompany Ivy disrupted the carefully laid scheme. The town remained on the edge of a dreadful turn of events, as the mysterious warning from the dream cast a shadow over the fate that had nearly befallen Rose. Disappointed that their initial plan failed, Ivy and the women, led by her, devised a new scheme. This time, they plotted to poison Rose. A woman in her 40s and the leader of the group came up with the idea to prepare poisoned food and instructed Ivy to offer it to Rose, who was still feeling unwell. Ivy was given the poisoned food and headed to Rose's home. She arrived to find Rose already eating her own meal. "I brought you some food. You should eat this instead." "It's much tastier," Ivy suggested. Feeling a bit better that day, Rose declined kindly. "Thank you, Ivy, but I already made my food. I will eat this later." Not wanting to raise suspicion, Ivy hesitated, but eventually left the poisoned meal and departed, unable to make Lily eat it. Later that evening, Rose went to retrieve the food Ivy had brought. As she uncovered it, she noticed that the meal had turned black, a clear sign of poison. Shocked and alarmed, she immediately threw the food away, understanding the ill intent behind the offering. Rose's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. The darkness of the plot against her had become all too evident. She felt both relieved that she hadn't consumed the poisoned food and disturbed by the betrayal of someone she considered a friend. The night fell on a town fraught with treachery and deception, where Rose narrowly avoided a tragic end, a moment that unveiled the depth of malice hidden behind the facade of friendship. Rose, feeling the weight of the treacherous attempt against her life, chose not to confront Ivy about the incident. Instead, she kept herself occupied with her work, striving to earn a living and maintain a sense of normality in her life. The women, consumed by anger at Rose's evasion of their schemes, decided on a more drastic plan. They sought out some nefarious men in the town, intending to send them to put an end to Rose's life. Ivy, reluctantly chosen once more, was tasked with luring Rose to the market square. The women planned to execute their malicious scheme in a covert and ruthless in a similar manner. When Ivy arrived at Rose's house, she searched for her but found no trace of the intended victim. She called out Rose's name several times, frantically checking every corner of the house, yet she was nowhere to be found. Worry and fear etched on her face. Ivy rushed back to the women. "She's gone. I couldn't find her anywhere. Rose is not at her house," she reported, her voice tinged with worry. The women, puzzled and frustrated by the unexpected turn of events, didn't know that Rose, unaware of the sinister plan, was diligently walking in a distant farm far away from the village. Unknown to them, Rose had escaped the impending danger, unknowingly eluding the trap set for her. As the sun began its descent on the horizon, casting an orange glow over the village, the vengeful women gathered with sinister intent, ready to execute their malicious scheme. They chose to bide their time until Rose returned, plotting to destroy her and her home in a fiery inferno. Rose, oblivious to the looming danger, arrived back in the village, fatigued from a hard day's work. Ivy, with a false smile, visited her softly, probing, "Where have you been?" Rose, innocently unaware, replied, "I have been walking. I'm back now." Ivy's smile twisted into a wicked grin as she welcomed Rose, offering food. Rose declined, sensing something amiss. As Ivy departed, Rose, suspicious, discreetly followed her. She watched from a hidden vantage point as Ivy met with a group of women, overhearing their malevolent conversation, their intent to set her home ablaze upon her return. Rose's heart rose with fear and resolve. She hurried back to her hut, gathering her most prized possessions. A rush of adrenaline pushed her to flee to the neighboring village, seeking safety from the imminent threat. Panting and alarmed, Rose reached the neighboring village, finding refuge as the distant glow of flames illuminated the night behind her. Her mind raced, contemplating her next move while vowing to uncover the truth behind the betrayal that had forced her into this perilous flight for survival. In the neighboring village, where Rose sought refuge, the villagers looked at her with sympathy and concern as she narrated the treacherous tale she narrowly escaped. One man in particular listened intently to her story, his expression filled with sorrow. "I have lost everything," Rose sighed, her voice ringing with the weight of betrayal and survival. The man, touched by her tale, offered, "Come, let's return to your village. I will protect you." Together, they made their way back to the village, where the women, previously content with the belief that Rose had perished, were astonished by her return. Gasps and murmurs filled the air as they saw her alive, some even whispering that she must be a ghost. Rose, undeterred by their shock, stood tall and resolved. "I am not a ghost," she asserted, her voice steady despite the astonishment around her. Some women, rattled and unnerved, fled at the sight of her, believing her to be a spectral entity returned from the beyond. However, Rose remained steadfast, undisturbed by their reactions. "I'm alive, and I'm here," she declared, determined to confront those who had plotted against her. Her resolve unshaken by their fear or disbelief, the man who escorted Rose to the village guided her straight to the king's palace. She recounted the malicious event that had befallen her, leaving the king visibly stunned by the story she unfolded. King, puzzled and taken aback, inquired about Rose's parentage. She revealed that her mother once mentioned that her father, named Obesi, hailed from this village. Rose explained that her mother, Omalugo, fled the village while pregnant, never revealing the truth to Obesi. She continued, sharing the heartbreaking news that her mother had passed away some years back, and she had returned in hopes of finding her father. Shocked and astonished, the king realized the truth that had eluded him for so long. "Oh, I am King Obesi," he revealed, his voice heavy with emotion as he disclosed his identity to his daughter, whom he had never known existed. Rose, overwhelmed and tearful, was embraced by her newfound father. He expressed regret for being unaware of her existence and promised to make amends. As the truth unfolded, the king sought justice. The women involved in the sinister plot against Rose were to face severe punishment and banishment. However, Rose, now the princess of the kingdom, intervened, pleading for mercy and forgiveness. Moved by his daughter's compassionate nature, King Obesi agreed to spare the guilty women, allowing them a chance to learn from their mistakes. Rose, now at peace with the villagers, was embraced and loved by the king's wife, and the prince joyously welcomed her as his sister. The kingdom, once marred by deceit and treachery, found a renewed sense of harmony and unity as Rose, Now the cherished princess forged forgiveness and understanding among all.